The world seems to be a bit crazy at the moment, and it seems like we've been rolling from crisis to crisis for the last few years, and it's hard just to keep up. And if you're anything like me, that can make you feel a bit anxious and like you just don't know what you can do about it in your own lives. And I get it. It's been a lot. Just things rolling in, hitting you one after the other, and we're all just trying to keep our heads above water. First, I want to talk about the reality that we all find ourselves in, and that is that we're essentially in an affordability crisis. We'll just call it what it is. Things are getting more expensive, and we have bills to pay that we have to pay, and there's no wriggle room on those, like putting fuel in your car and paying your electricity bill. You just gotta do that because you want to drive your car and have the lights on in your house. So we're looking at ways that we can keep paying our bills, and usually where we're trying to squeeze it, where we've got room to move in this world that keeps on squeezing, is our food budget. But when you cut money out of your food budget, well, you're not eating food that is as good as you could be eating. And that's what lots of the suggestions are about online at the moment. So let's just dive into what's actually realistic and possible to produce for ourselves, and where we should be directing our time and our energy into that enterprise.
The world out there feels like it's spinning faster every year. But step into the flock for 10 minutes and the speed of everything changes. They don't know about the news. They don't know what eggs cost at the supermarket this week. They just know where the food is, where the water is, who they trust, and what time the sun goes down. There's something honest about that, and there's something useful about it too, because most of what makes a flock work is exactly what makes a household work. Knowing what matters, putting your time where it counts, not chasing every shiny idea that comes past. So when I talk about what to grow and what not to grow, I'm really talking about the same thing that chickens already know. Pick the stuff that pays you back.
So on the theme of what is worth your time and energy, I want to just give you a little example of something that I have seen pop up a few times as a suggestion of something that you can do. And that is making zucchini or courgette flour to stretch your wheat flour to make it go further. So here is some zucchini flour that I made this year, and it's not very much, and then I decided not to make any more. So this jar, this tiny little amount of zucchini flour, was an entire dehydrator load, which was about 5 medium-sized zucchinis to make this tiny amount, which would probably go in just one loaf of bread if I was using it to stretch my wheat flour. So you would have to have so many zucchinis and be dehydrating them just 24/7 for months to make enough zucchini flour to be making any impact on actually stretching the wheat flour that you can just buy. So that when you're seeing these tips online, you have to take a step back and think, is this a good use of my time and energy? Because we don't have limitless time and energy. Growing food for like a big portion of your diet is a full-time job. And most of us, me included, already have full-time jobs, so we can pay those other bills we've got to pay. So it's not realistic to think that we can produce all of our own food because there's not enough hours in the day. Most people don't have acres and acres of land to grow their own food. I don't. And if that's your situation, you've got smaller spaces available to sort of put your time and energy into, then growing what I call bulk calorie crops isn't the way to go. So that's growing things like potatoes or maize corn, things like that, or wheat. Don't try and grow that on a small scale, because those foods are for bulk calories. They're the base energy of your diet. And those foods tend to be not particularly expensive to buy. You can go to the store and buy flour, you can buy rice, you can buy whole wheat if you want to grind it yourself. Those things are available, and even as prices rise and availability gets a little bit questionable, you're highly likely to still be able to find something to fill that base carbohydrate layer in your diet. So just go and buy that. Buy it in bulk and bake your own bread from flour, but don't try and grow that stuff if you've only got a regular size garden. Where you want to be focusing your time and your energy, because it's limited, is on where you can bring nutrition into your diet. The stuff that is expensive at the store, the animal foods, the fruits and the vegetables, the things that make that base carbohydrate calorie layer that you're buying actually taste good and really ramp up how good it is for you. So that's what we're going to look at now: how to get those super nutritious foods into your diet.
A chicken flock isn't a project or a hobby. They're a deal you make with nature. You give them space, scraps, a safe place to sleep, and your attention when something's wrong. They give you back something you genuinely cannot grow in the ground, no matter how big your garden is. An egg is a concentrated package of everything they pulled out of the world that day. The bugs in the leaf litter, the seed heads from the long grass, the kitchen scraps you would have thrown out anyway. They're turning all of that into food, sitting on your kitchen bench by tomorrow morning. That's not a small thing. That's the whole argument.
Animals provide some of the most nutrient-dense food you can find. And that is one of the reasons why I have dedicated essentially my entire backyard to my chicken flock, because the eggs that they produce are just nutrition that I can't grow. You can't get the level of nutrition that you can get from an egg from any plant-based food. No matter how much space you have to grow it, a plant is never going to be an egg. So from that perspective, that is why I have over the years dedicated basically my whole backyard, except for some small dedicated growing areas, to the chicken flock. And that allows me to keep my chicken feed bill, the stuff I have to go out and buy to feed them, lower than it would otherwise be, because the chickens have a huge space to roam around in. And they are accumulating nutrients from all of the things that they're eating in their environment, and they're concentrating it into their eggs that we can then eat. So that is an extremely efficient way to get that high quality nutrition into your diet. And once you've got your flock set up, it is a low time and energy commitment to a very secure food source. Another thing that I have been doing for the past year or so is being part of a co-owned cow share. So I part own a milk cow with a group of other people. Now, I don't have enough space to have a dairy cow here, but somebody else did have enough space, and they put together a super cool little system whereby we all share a cow and milk the cow and share the risks of having that cow. Now, I know that is not a possibility for everyone, but we do need to start thinking outside the square and working together together so that we can all seek to meet our needs. So if there is something, maybe you have room for a cow, but you don't have the time and the energy to dedicate to that kind of big responsibility, maybe you could set up a similar dairy animal collective. Or if you don't have enough space, maybe you can look around and see if that's something you can put together, because a dairy animal really levels up the kind of nutrition that you can get into your diet, and also really utilizes some of the more wasted things that come out of a food production system, like leftover crop residues and things that the chickens can't handle, but a cow is very happy, or a goat for that matter, very happy to chow down on and turn into delicious milk and butter for you.
The flock isn't 20 individual chickens trying to survive on their own. It's 20 chickens doing one job together. The older hens hold the calm. The pullets watch and learn. The roosters watch the sky. Even the grumpy ones in the middle of a molt have a role. They're the ones telling everybody else when to back off. Nobody decided this. It just is. And I think there's a lesson in that for us, especially right now. We've been told for a long time that the answer to everything is to do it yourself, on your own land, with your own gear, by your own hand. But that's not how a flock works, and maybe that's not how a household works either. Sometimes the most resilient thing you can do is share.
When we're talking about what things to grow, you want to be thinking about what sorts of foods are going to add great variety and nutrition to your diet. And that's why I'm saying not to grow massive bulk calories like potatoes. If I wanted to grow enough potatoes to feed everybody for the year, I would have to plant the entire backyard in potatoes, and then I wouldn't have room for tomatoes or chickens or anything else. So you really want to focus on the things that are going to make your diet worth eating and get those nutrients in there. So for me, that is sort of a focus on tomatoes. They grow well here, and I can preserve them to eat through the winter, and the saves money, but it also brings delicious flavor to more basic budget-friendly meals. You add some tomato paste to spaghetti or rice, and you've just made it taste delicious, and it hasn't cost you very much. It has cost you in time and it has cost you in energy, but the flavor you get from your own food is just incomparable, as is the nutrition, because flavor and nutrition go together. When something tastes really good out of your garden, it's because it's bursting with nutrition. That is where the flavor is coming from. So focus on annual crops that are going to add flavor and nutrition, like garlic and peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers, things like that. Because annual crops, the things you have to go out, plant in your garden every year and take care of really well, that is the bulk of your time and your energy. That's the hard bit. So focus on the highest value things for you when you're choosing what you're going to put in and out of your garden every year.
The chickens don't think about next year, but the trees do. Every fruit tree I've put in here is a decision I'm making for a future version of me and a future version of this flock. The hens that'll be living under that tree haven't been hatched yet. The chicks that'll dust bathe in its shade are still just an idea. That's actually the whole magic of Perennials. You do the work once. You do it slightly badly the first time because you've never done it before. And then for the next 20 years, the tree just shows up and gives you food. Annual crops are loud. Every season they want your attention, your weeding, your watering, your worry. A tree just gets on with it. Plant the trees. Future you will be grateful. future flock will be grateful too.
Perennial crops, because they give you delicious fruits and berries and nuts that you can preserve to eat through the rest of the year when they're not in season, because when they're in season, they're just throwing it at you in huge abundance. And they are pretty easy to take care of. Perennials like trees and shrubs and berry bushes are your friends when it comes to letting food produce itself, essentially. Now, if you don't have a permanent living situation, it's a little bit trickier to put in perennials, but there are dwarf trees and things like berry bushes that will happily grow in pots that you can take with you if you need to move. So I wouldn't discount putting those perennials in, even if you don't have somewhere you can plant them in the ground forever. They do say the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago, but the next best time is right now, and planting trees is going to pay dividends in the future. So why am I saying perennials are so awesome? Well, once they're established, once you've planted them and kind of babied them a little bit for their first couple of years, they just keep on going. They need minimal care, just some occasional pruning and a little bit of fertilizer. And they give you fruit or nuts or berries year after year after year. And once they're a few years old, they give you a lot. It's so much that you're not going to manage to get through it all in terms of eating it and preserving it. So they're a really, really easy way to collect up all that highly nutritious food. They have deep root systems that bring nutrients from deeper in the soil layers up and make it available for people to eat. And also they feed chicken flocks and dairy animals. Chickens love plums and berries just as much as we do, which is why you need to work on protecting them from the chickens so you get your share first. But they're fantastic.
A quick word about sharing your harvest with the chickens. They are coming for the plums. They are coming for the berries. They are coming for the figs. The strawberries didn't even stand a chance. You can fence them out, you can net the trees, you can put up cages and barriers and string up shiny things to scare them off. They will still get some anyway. That's pretty much the deal. They turn it back into eggs, and the eggs are worth more than the strawberries.
I have spent time planting more trees here. I was quite lucky to have a couple of plum trees and a lemon tree and a feijoa tree that had been in for quite a while already, but I've added citrus and I've added more plum trees. And I've added hazelnut trees, which will, over the years, be producing fruit essentially, or nuts, essentially all year round. So that is something to plan, to think about. Look at what fruits and nuts will be available in what seasons, and plant so that you're going to have something coming up ready to harvest pretty much all year round. Now, of course, not all climates are going to be forgiving of having something available all the time, but that is where fruit trees are fantastic, because you can easily preserve the fruit. Most fruit is a high acidity food, so it's really safe for canning it. You don't have to worry too much when you're canning fruit. It's going to be quite safe because it's highly acidic. You don't have to muck around with it. You don't have to pressure can it. Whereas other things like green beans or corn or things like that, they do have to be pressure canned to be safe. And that's another whole layer of thinking about it and equipment. Whereas fruit can really easily be made shelf stable just by simple canning in a water bath canner. The most important thing when we're thinking about resiliency and when we're thinking about flexibility, so we can keep on paying the bills that we've got to pay and still have enough money to afford to eat, the most important thing is building skills. Because when you have skills, you can take them with you wherever you go. They are part of you. And the sorts of skills I'm talking about are things like learning how to cook from scratch, from base ingredients, so that you have the flexibility to change what you're cooking with based on what's available at an affordable price. It's about being familiar with keeping chickens and other livestock, learning how to milk a cow, even if it's not something that you're going to be doing a lot. Those sorts of things give you flexibility. And something I try to do for myself every year is to grow a different crop so I can learn how to grow that thing. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to keep growing it, but if I needed to grow it in the future, if things got more just more insecure and I needed that thing, I would know how to grow it so I'm not learning as I go.
The thing about a flock is that none of it can be taken from you. Not the way they move together, not the way the older ones teach the younger ones just by existing, not the way you've learned to read their moods, their warning calls, their settling in for the night sounds. Those things live inside you. Quietly, they go where you go. And that's what skills really are. They're the parts of self-sufficiency that don't sit on a shelf or grow in a garden. They sit in your hands and your eyes and your attention. The world can change the price of flour. It can change the weather. It can change what's on the shelves and what isn't. It can't change what you know how to do.
So something I grow every year so I can practice getting better and better at it is corn. So this is a maize, a dent corn. I think it is what you can use to make corn flour from. You can use it to make masa harina for making tortillas. And I don't grow enough to be a significant portion of our diet. I just grow a small section each year. But the reason I do that is if it became important in future that I did need to find a way to provide those bulk calories, then I would know how to grow it. I'm not having to learn as I go. So it's just doing little things, finding a skill that you can learn and practice. Finding a new one once you've mastered the one you've chosen is going to give you the most resiliency, the most flexibility, and the most security of any of the things that I've talked about, because no one can take skills away from you. So if there's anything that you take away from this video, it is to learn something new and practice it, because the skill of being a human being able to do things for yourself is really what this whole self-sufficiency thing is all about.